Hello, I'm Brian Critchell and I'm here today with Tim Jones, Chief Executive of Nest. Tim, thanks for inviting us.
You're welcome.
Can we talk about investment in particular? You said that Nest is like any other trust-based pension scheme, and you've made a decision to offer a default strategy. So that's one point. And then secondly, you've labelled it low risk. Now, offering a default strategy is a question that's divided opinion, particularly amongst trustees and trust-based schemes, almost as long as DC schemes have been around. So what led you to go down the route of the default and the low risk? And doesn't low risk really mean low return?
Okay. Can I tease those apart? Sure. Let's start with default. Actually, it's the law that leads us towards default. A qualifying scheme under the automatic enrolment regulations has to have a default fund. It's part of the legal framework. So we've got to have one. Now, even if we didn't have to have one, we'd have one anyway, because the evidence from around the world is that the vast majority of people who are automatically enrolled into pensions remain passive and don't engage with the product sufficiently to actually make a choice. They're just not interested enough in it, and there's no reason why they should be. So I think it's a very important feature that there's a default fund, but there needs to be one by law. Now, what people around the world have said to us as we've asked them is that they expect 90% plus of the money that comes into Nest to go into the default fund. And therefore, we've spent a huge amount of time working very hard on designing the right kind of default fund for our members. Now, we haven't said it's low risk. It's been put back to us that we've said that, but we haven't. What we've said is, in fact, nothing formally yet, because investment decisions are decisions for the trustees. What we've been doing is consulting widely with the industry, and through our response document to the investment consultation, we've set out a direction of travel, which people have interpreted as low risk, but they shouldn't. What it is appropriate risk at the appropriate time, and the trustees will decide on that. We have got some concepts that are firming up. One of those concepts is the use of target date. So if you're going to retire in 2060, your money will be in the 2060 fund. And if you're going to retire in 2040, your money would be in the 2040 fund. And what differentiates the 2040 fund from the 2060 fund? It's the profile of volatility through your savings life. And we've also suggested a lower, mid, and then lower volatility level for the three phases of your savings life. And that's partly informed by the very large amount of research we've done with the target market. And actually, we don't actually have any members yet, so we can't directly talk to our members, but we do have a good idea of what the target market will be, and we research them avidly. And they seem to have a lower than society average risk appetite, and they don't like absolute loss. They use concepts of theft around that. So if a fund sees absolute loss, some of the respondents will say, who's taken my money, where's it gone? Now, we believe that to get a good pension, one of the things that's essential is to keep paying money in. Okay? If you don't keep paying money in, then you're not going to get a pension worth having. And so we're respecting that evidence through research about loss appetite in the way we're designing the profile of volatility. But it's not low risk, it'll be appropriate risk at appropriate time.
Yes, I'm always slightly bemused by the terms that the industry uses, and on the regulator side, the FSA in particular uses to define what they mean by low risk. Hence my comment earlier about low return. If you have absolute protection against too much volatility, then the price that you pay for that can actually damage the potential for return. So I'm interested in what you said about research. You said you've done a lot of research into your target market. Is that in the public domain? Can we talk about that? Can you tell us?
Okay, some of it is. Yeah, some of it is because it formed part of the response to the investment consultation document, and some of it isn't. But that's part of what's going to happen in 2011. 2011 is the year Nest arrives, and what you'll see us do, starting very soon, is to gradually bring to life and bring to light the different things that we've been doing. We've done quite a lot of that already, but there's a lot more to do. So we will be talking about our attitudes to risk and attitudes to loss research, and we'll be publishing that. And there'll be a series through 2011 of announcements about a whole range of topics, but definitely about investments. But I'm the chief executive. I'm not a trustee member. It's not for me to second guess where the trustee members are going to land, and I've got no intention of doing so. By the end of this year, Nest will be live. There'll be real customers, members' money in Nest, and everybody will be able to see in great detail where our investment work has taken us.
Okay, well, as a supplementary to that, the needs of the lower paid, we've touched on it a little when we talked briefly at the beginning of this interview about value for money, and charges have the potential to take a huge slice out of a small contribution. We want to, I think, be satisfied that the lower paid in particular will not be mistreated by the charging structure. And there's been a lot of talk about AMCs and a lot of talk about contribution charges. Yep. But can you provide some reassurance that the lower paid in particular will be treated as fairly as possible in this scenario?
Yeah, so the ask that I was given when I arrived here was 50 basis points or equivalent. And what we've done is to announce now, the trustees have announced, that the initial charging structure will be 30 basis points plus a one-time 1.8% contribution charge. Now, if you model that out, as we have, as you'd expect us to have done, over a, say, 10 to 15 to 20 year period, that comes in at slightly less than 50 basis points if you have a reasonably smooth contribution pattern. And so it achieves that objective. Why is it done that way rather than just simply doing, say, 50 basis points? The answer is that it accelerates cash flow. Bringing the contribution charge brings more money in earlier. That means that the membership in the round borrow less money because Nest is being funded by a loan from government. That loan needs to be repaid with interest so that the taxpayer isn't disadvantaged. And the membership in Nest in total will pay less interest because of the acceleration in cash flow. And so actually in aggregate, the Nest membership is slightly better off from having this combination charge of the contribution charge and 30 basis points compared with where it would be had it been a simple 50 basis points. The key point to make here is that a lot of the members of Nest and the firms that they work for don't have access to any provision at the moment, let alone provision that can deliver 50 basis points. So from the off, we think this is a very attractive charge structure for people that can't get anything, let alone anywhere near that. Now, I don't want to speculate as to where the trustees will go after the loan is repaid, but they would certainly then have the ability to go to, for example, a AMC only structure because the repayment issue wouldn't arise, the loan would have passed. And at that point, if they did that, then actually a pure AMC structure is a Robin Hood product. It's the wealthier people with the larger pots that disproportionately pay in a pure AMC structure compared with poorer people.
Given that your target market is, in many ways, those people who have no provision at the moment, when you talked about researching your audience, did you also look at the mobility issue? Because people who change jobs frequently can presumably continue to benefit from Nest if the employer they go to is also a Nest provider. What happens if they're not?
Well, if they're not, they go somewhere else. So, but that is one of the things that we are excited about with Nest, is that you get this effective portability from one job to the next if the employer has chosen to use Nest where you next go. You can also make voluntary contributions to your Nest pot, even if you're in employment with an employer that's chosen another scheme. So this is the occupational scheme that in that way looks a bit more like a contract-based scheme.
Tim, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.